For you. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Miller. I'm a former certified nursing assistant, turned full-time stay-at-home mother and spousal caregiver 4 years ago, almost five. And today I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs like you learn how to manage caregiving and entrepreneurship without sacrificing your well-being. And as it happens, we have a gem of a guest on the podcast today, Renee Mohr. Renee is here to help shed some light on the importance of self-care. And like we were discussing before we actually started this episode, is how important it is for us to take care of ourselves first. Because as cliche as this analogy is of putting the oxygen mask on first for yourself before you can help another person, it's really true because if you're not breathing in oxygen, if you're not able to think clearly, y'all, you're not going to be able to help anybody else. You're not going to be any good to your loved ones that you're caring for, whether it's your spouse, your kids, a chronically ill loved one. And as entrepreneurs, you're not going to be any good to your clients because we all have these unique gifts and talents that we are called to help share people with X, Y, and Z. But it all starts with us. So, Renee, thank you so much in your busy schedule to come and spend some time with us.
Oh, thank you, Melissa, for inviting me on here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. The only thing I don't like about this time of year is the germs. We've had some little bit light colds kind of going through our house, but we're hanging in there, so it's okay. But that's the only downside. I love the cooler weather, get a break from the triple digit heat, and I love Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're by far hands down my two favorite holidays. But yeah, the germs just with being chronically ill myself and everything and having the germs don't stop. So yeah, that's
I,
the only downside, but we're doing okay. We're doing okay.
yeah,
So,
I hear you on that. I love fall and Thanksgiving. However, yeah, getting out those essential oils and using them on my hands and finding different ways to increase that vitamin D and vitamin C and vitamin A is really important.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Renee, you and I know each other a bit now, obviously, but our listeners may not have ever heard about you, your story, your work. So, can you share a little bit about what brought you to where you're at today?
Yeah, when I was 9 years old, I started having grand mal seizures, and so then fast forward, they became worse. I met my husband. We got married when I was in my early 20s, and then went on to have kids. And I have a son who also is recovered from autism and Asperger's. However, while he was a teenager, we didn't really know what was going on. He was diagnosed pretty late. Both of my kids were always sick. I was always sick, gaining weight, side effects from medications, and just not understanding the power of food and herbs and what an important role they play in our lives to help us either feel better or feed that illness so you keep feeling more depressed and tired and brain fog and just not being able to function. And so in 1996, I learned more about nutrition and herbs and the power of food, and was like a light bulb moment, because I was like, you mean I get to choose what I put in my mouth, and then I can either feel better or I can feel worse? Oh my gosh, that is so nice. I can choose to feel better. However, in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of gluten-free foods around. We lived in a very small military town. There wasn't a lot of farmers markets, fresh produce. We lived in the Mojave Desert. So, of course, gardening there is very difficult. And so finding those ancient grains and that didn't clog up my system and make me more depressed, and then knowing how to cook with them, I was like, what's quinoa? How do you use it? I'd never heard of aromat or cassava flour. What is that? So learning, Googling recipes became like a full-time job. Learning my son had to be off the gluten and the dairy, starting to get vitamins, good quality vitamins, not just because it said, oh, it's a B12. Is it a B12 that my son's body could use? Was it dairy free? Trying to figure out how to get some dairy free, because there wasn't almond milk or soy milk, coconut milk available in the stores. So really learning how to change those up, learning what mullein. Oh my gosh, mullein is great for coughing and respiratory. They can pull the mucus out, learning how to use that, how to get it into a tincture, and then realizing and seeing over the years how he got better and how I got better. And making sure that the number one thing that to changing as I'm learning and realizing, okay, I cannot be feeling good myself when I'm up to midnight on the computer, and then my son is having an asthma attack, so I'm up with him all night and thinking then I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to give my other kids breakfast. Well, I got no sleep, which is the very thing that triggers a seizure. So learning how to balance all that and how important it was not only took me quite a while, because even though something is better for you, breaking those habits,
Right.
those self-destructing habits, especially when you're the only one doing it. You see your family around you and all the things they do day to day, and then oh, I'm so tired, and they're congested and they're wore out, and I just need to get sleep, but you can't get any sleep, that, and your brain's just going all night long. And so, yeah, learning how to do that, it took a while.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it with anything. Whether you yourself are the one who's ill or you have a family member that's ill. It's a learning curve. It doesn't happen overnight, and no two situations are the same. And you do
Right,
have to kind of figure out what works for you. Obviously, things that work have worked for me, obviously, will probably differ than what that will work for Renee, and that's fine. But just still putting in the time and intentionality, I think, is the big
right.
thing because that is what's going to make or break you. With especially when you're dealing with chronic illness, like I've been touched by seizures too. My husband was diagnosed 4 years ago with epilepsy, and yeah, it's been a learning curve, making sure he gets the extra sleep, trying to make sure he's getting at least a little protein and some veggies and fruits every day to balance his diet and getting that extra nap in every day so he isn't sleep deprived, so he still can function and work. It's a learning curve, and figuring out the right dose of medication. So there's all these things, but also being, I know with the flip side, with me having chronic illnesses where I am impacted by what I eat. I do need to be gluten free, but then I have to be careful. I'll look at a label and they'll still there it will say gluten free. It might be gluten free because yeah, it doesn't have wheat in it, but then I look down further and it also has maybe uh a milk derivatives because I'm dairy free as well or something else. And so really getting intentional with really paying attention to what you're putting in your body to make sure you don't flare your health, whatever situation that is for you, is really important. And I know it's a headache. I know it's a headache to go, oh gosh, now I have to make all these changes. Real life story just about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks as of tomorrow, I got diagnosed with a skin disorder. Basically, all the 15 years of hand washing I did professionally as a certified nursing assistant, and then obviously with having chronic health issues and caring for my husband, the hand washing hasn't stopped. But it's caught, and then being around, we figured out too, being around scented products just don't work with my skin. So the trauma just is continuous so I had to spend couple days a couple 2 weeks ago going through my house throwing away a lot of stuff that would not work in terms of like hand soaps and body washes and deodorants and laundry detergent. It wasn't fun, but if I want to function and if I want to be able to use my hands and go throughout the day without my hands being on fire,
Right.
that's what I have to do. So it really comes down to that question of, do you want to get better? Is it frustrating? Of course, dealing with health issues is frustrating. Okay, let's not that there's no way around it. But you do have a choice. You do have a choice about what you put in your body, what you allow to touch your body. And yes, don't get me wrong, for those of you listening who maybe already be feeling overwhelmed, like, oh gosh, that means I'm going to have to change everything. You can do it in little spurts. You don't have to do everything all at once. My dermatologist was like, you don't have to do everything at once. I want you to start maybe getting rid of a couple items at a time and swapping out for things that are a brand that is safe, that doesn't have those triggering elements in them. But I'm not going to make you do it overnight. I just want you to start doing a few groups of items at a time. So we start lessening the flares, lessening the exposure to where we get you more stable with your skin. And whatever that looks like for you, what is one thing that you could do to start lessening the chaos with your health or your loved one's health? So maybe it's starting to work on meals. Maybe meals isn't that is a component. Just start looking up recipes. Maybe every day you try to do at least one meal where you really are intentional with planning out that meal to where you're not getting sensitivities, So just one step at a time. It doesn't have, it's a marathon, right, Renee? It's a marathon. It's not a
It,
sprint.
yes, it is very much a marathon. And right now is a great time to get started because a lot of people are realizing all these additives and foods that we have are not safe for our body, are very toxic. And so there's so many recipes out that are gluten free, that are dairy free, that are low sugar, that have incorporating more vegetables that actually really taste good, that is available now than there ever used to be. And people, like, they're making their own sourdough bread, creating their own starters at home, making their own soaps. And so it's so much more available than it was when I started in the 90s,
Mhm.
of trying to find things and get things. And a lot of times people would be, what do you mean gluten? What is gluten? They had no idea that it was in wheat. And then, with, like you said, you're looking at things that are supposed to be gluten free, but there's over 100 different names for gluten. So
Exactly.
did people know that caramel coloring is gluten?
Yeah.
Natural flavorings, that's gluten.
Yeah.
And so it's like they just expect to see gluten in the ingredients instead of all these different names.
Names for it. Yeah.
If you don't know what it is when you see it on the ingredients, I just tell people put it back.
Yeah, if you can't pronounce it, put it back. There's probably an indicator that something, and like when you're thinking about making changes, like I've started getting a lot of frozen vegetables for us because they're usually pretty clean and it saves me a lot of chopping, for time.
Right.
It's a start. It's something. So we're at least introducing some fresh vegetables and getting, especially with a 5-year-old, my child's 5 years old and she's at that age where like, nah, do I have to? Or yeah, if she's on a corn binge right now. So the fact that I'm being able to she'll eat frozen corn and I'm getting some sort of vegetable into her, I'm happy. So, so you have to start somewhere and you got to start and it's okay to start slow and make the changes because it's really overwhelming for us whenever we're making any change to try to do everything at once because then we get so overwhelmed and then we have analysis paralysis and we don't do anything. And if we do want to get better, the best way to do it, since it is a marathon, think about it. Marathon runners train vigorously and
Right.
intentionally for weeks and months before their big marathon races. So if that's the case, and if we're wanting to kind of build that muscle and momentum of making these changes to be long lasting and these like what Renee said, unhealthy habits, then the best thing to do is to start with one habit at a time and start building on the momentum. Once we get one mastered, then we start doing another. For me, an example, when I was really trying to get my IBS under control a year ago, it started with doing plexus supplements to kind of help deal with the symptoms. And man, has it helped. I've been on that a year. But also, too, like within that year, over the last year, I've actually gotten up to the point where I started incorporating exercise. And now I'm to the point where I've been able to exercise for 15 to 20 minutes every or 5 days a week. And I did my first 3K race a month ago. So walked it, not run it. I'm not a runner, y'all. So, but
Well,
that happens
congratulations, you got started.
exactly.
You
So
did something.
yes, so a year, and that's okay. There's no shame in taking the marathon journey of getting your health and creating these healthy habits established, guys, over a longer period of time. We're not saying you have to do it within a week or a month. Everyone's body takes time to heal. I love what my plexus mentor said when I first started. She's like, look, it took you years to get unhealthy, the chronic illnesses and things like that. So once you start introducing these healthy habits, the actual healing process is obviously going to take quite a bit of time. for every year that you are chronically ill, it's about 2 to 3 months of recovery time. And so I've had IBS for going on 3 years, or I was up to like 2 years when I started a year ago, and I'm just about to hit my 3 year mark. So 2 years of having IBS and not doing anything about it when I started. So do the math. It's going to take me. So even though I'm not maybe where I want to be in terms of my health today, I'm better off because I started, like when I said I started, and I am feeling better
You're
a year
freezing
into
up,
that
Melissa.
marathon. Huh?
You're freezing up, so I couldn't
Oh,
tell when
I'm
you
sorry.
stopped. That's
Oh, I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah, the fact that I
Right.
started. Yeah,
And
and it'll
you
keep getting better as I go. And I encourage everyone listening, just start. Just start.
exactly. And and while you may have known about your IBS for what, 2 years, how long was your body going that way that you didn't know about it? And
Absolutely.
so, and so you've got all that time also where you were building up to it. You didn't have any idea. You probably figured out something was going on and something was wrong, but you didn't learn until 2 years ago. So you've got that time where you need to give your body that amount of time to also recover. It's not like a light switch. It doesn't flip on and all of a sudden you start doing one thing and you're perfectly healthy and have full of energy and just are ready to go. That's not the way it goes.
No,
And
no.
I know we all wish it would happen that way. Um, but yeah, and then also, you got to make sure that those pathways, like your spine, your brain, your liver, your gallbladder, your kidneys, your pancreas, that they're open so that as you're doing things to get better, your body can take out the garbage, it can get rid of it.
Hmm.
And otherwise, with that, all that stuff stays into you. You really start to feel the headaches, and you're like, oh, the changes I'm making aren't working. They're not helping. They really are. Your body just can't get rid of all these toxins that have built up, and it'll make you tired and have achy joints, which could be mistaken for, oh, you're starting on arthritis and you're starting to get migraines. And that's really not the case. It's just that your body can't get rid of those toxins.
Yeah. And I've noticed one thing that's really made a difference for me is like, well, I cut, beans are a trigger food for me for my IBS. And so cutting out coffee, I cut out coffee. And then obviously with that, I really cut out caffeine. And so I haven't had caffeine in a couple of years now. But one thing still that I've noticed still is that if I don't drink enough water, I definitely get a headache. So definitely just hydrating, just getting in that was one other thing I started too when I first started Plexus. I was still on my very limited diet. I wasn't to the point where I could start introducing foods back into my diet yet. But one thing I could do right away is just water, just really working on getting my ounces of water a day. And so getting a reuse, so one way you could start just for hydration, get a good reusable water bottle and just be intentional with getting your amount of water in. So take your body weight, divide it by two. That's your ounces of how much water you need to drink in a day. And then obviously if you're sick, or as females when we're going through our monthlies, we definitely obviously need to up that even more because we're losing fluids and we want to flush out, especially when we're sick, flushing out the germs. So don't gorge yourself till you're sick, but just definitely be intentional. Make sure that you're keeping that water bottle with you, refilling it, and taking those extra sips of water so you stay hydrated. You flush out what does not need to be in your body, so you do
Exactly.
feel good.
And with the water bottle, everybody, make sure that you're taking it apart, take apart the seals and clean it really well. Because I've had people who have gotten sick and underneath all of the silicone and stuff
Hmm.
that's holding it together has been a lot of mold that builds up that they didn't
Yep.
realize. Or
Yep.
if you have a metal straw, have a little brush that you can put up in there and clean out if you've drank smoothies or you've added some minerals or, vitamins, nutrient packs in there that the straw is getting all cleaned out so you don't take all that residue back into your body, causing yourself more illness.
Yeah. Yeah. And wash it like every day or every other day at the most. That
Yeah.
way you keep your water bottles clean.
Let it air out overnight so it
Yeah.
gets really dry. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, just make sure you're doing that as part of your self care so you're not reintroducing bacteria and illness back into your body.
Yeah. It's very important. It's very important. I know it feels like there's always one more thing, but
Right.
once you get into these habits and the routine and you make these habits your part of your daily routine where it becomes second nature, it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Right. It's getting into those habits and creating them as your daily routine. They do get easier, it gets on, and then you can slowly start to incorporate more because you're automatically just doing the better habits instead
Mhm.
of those ones that are sabotaging you each day.
Yeah, and habit stacking, like we used habit stacking in entrepreneurship, grouping tasks together so we get everything done at a more intentional pace. Same thing with your health, you know. First thing in the morning while I'm getting my daughter up for her school, I'm refilling my water bottle, making and starting to start my ounces of water right away. Instead of before it'd be caffeine, I'm starting to make sure I start taking some sips of water, getting in my workout before I take her to school, so when I come back I can have breakfast and I'm working out on an empty stomach, so I'm not, making myself sick. So, just how can you do it? Everyone's going to be different. Mind and soul are important too. So how are you taking time to give your mind and your soul some attention every day? So is it devotionals, daily devotionals, like what
Right.
I do? Is it maybe some journaling? Is it prayer? Is it maybe getting outside for a walk, getting into nature for some fresh air and change of scenery? Is it maybe reading one chapter? I have a friend in my mastermind. I love this idea. She tries to read at least one chapter of a book every day or something like that. So what are you doing? What are you doing to nurture the health of your mind and the health of your soul? Because that definitely still impacts your body as well.
It does. And as you get better, you may also have traumas that you haven't dealt with that you may have thought that you dealt with that start coming up. I've had a lot of clients say to me, "Why am I so angry today? Why am I so all I did was I was crying a lot." And I said, "Well, what was on your mind?" And oh, I was thinking about, it was a family member where they had had a trauma that they assumed that they had dealt with and got rid of, but as you are getting healthier, these buried emotions will come up. And dealing with them in a healthy way, whether you go out and you exercise, maybe you just need to offload on somebody and you're talking or you're writing or journaling, or you want to read your scriptures, whatever it takes to for you to get those emotions out. But as long as you're not sitting down and eating something that's really unhealthy for you and you calling it a treat, you know um, getting rid of those and actually dealing with the buried emotions, and it may take more than a day. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's all right.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and definitely, if it gets to that point, like I know with caregiving, the other trauma we deal with is grief, grief of the life we thought we would have,
Right.
grief of just seeing our loved one pass. I lost my parents back to back within the span of 2 years, and my mother's been gone for 3 years, my dad's been gone for one. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still
Right.
dealing with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm still also need to still be present for my husband and my daughter and myself
Yeah.
and my clients. And, so there's still things I need to do. But, here's the thing too. Healing takes time and it's a marathon and it's going to come. And it'll look different. It definitely looks different now, obviously, a year post my father's death and 3 years post my mother's death than it did, when they first passed. And that's normal. And so you are going to have moments where you're triggered, just like with your health. Like, say, with my skin, if I touch something, I'm exposed to something that makes my skin flare up, or my, or I eat something that I didn't realize had a trigger element in it and I have an attack, IBS attack. Same thing with grief and trauma. You need to anticipate, not live in fear, of course, but just be aware that you're going to have those moments of being triggered and and again, going back to those healthy habits, what are some ways that work for you in dealing with that trauma? And Renee just gave some great
For
ones,
me, what I
yeah,
like to
some great
do
ones.
is for me, what I like to do is if I can, I go out on a hike or I'll be working in the garden, getting all my plants planted, getting the stuff for my fall and winter garden going. I really enjoy that. And sometimes I'll have, a thought, whether it was about when I was growing up or certain traditions we may have had that maybe we don't anymore. Um, Definitely my life as a mom. is much different than I ever thought it would be. We adopted two girls who we fostered, and I didn't think I would ever do that. We are also have a young man in our life that we are like his foster parents. And so I didn't think I would have 5 kids. And, but sometimes it's just going out with some friends and, talking to them, kind of unloading a bit. Or sometimes it'll be talking to my husband about not only what we dreamed our life is going to be, but we can do much more than just dream about it. What am I doing each day to make it happen? So dreaming is great. That's kind of like the foundation where it all starts. But also, what are you doing each day so that those no longer become dreams? Because then I found I was getting depressed because they weren't really happening. Okay. I mean, my goal is I love doing the farm life. Okay. I love having animals and gardens and a big garden, lots of flowers and lots of herbs, and creating meals and snacks and goodies for my husband and my grandsons that are also healthy. So I've got grandsons who do not eat vegetables, and I know that is a big battle for all parents. But now they will eat anything that comes out of our garden because they said, this tastes so much better than what we get at the grocery store. Okay, so they love to pick tomatoes, they love to pick lettuce, they love to eat cucumbers and peas. And the best thing is they're doing it while they're looking for worms, or they're doing it while they're looking for all these different bugs and frogs. And they're having a good time. So they're finding out how fun it can be to garden while they're playing with their lizards and their frogs and getting them the flies to feed to the frogs. Okay, so they're just being boys. They're being kids, but at the same time incorporating healthy lifestyle habits that hopefully they can build and take into their life so that they have that those building blocks there of more healthy habits than non-healthy habits.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I just think it's important to, that's something else to think about too, is like what we do, all we say, all we do, all we think, that impacts those around us. So as parents, what kind of habits do we want to be giving our kids, in terms of what we should do? And, I know it's a battle. Like, like I said, I have a kid that doesn't always want to eat what I put in front of her, but just, encourage them to at least try. And as they go, don't give up. They grow, they change, they hopefully will get into something that's a little better, but it's a journey. And it's all about intention. At least if nothing else, I want my daughter to know that, mama tried. I tried to do my best to help take care
Right.
of you and give you the best things. And that's enough. And that's enough. And and just and modeling those habits. Like every time she sees me work out, she knows that I'm prioritizing my body. I'm trying to take care of myself so I
Right.
can be here for her. So it's all about intention. It's all about just getting started. It's all about maybe picking one thing and just building on the momentum and giving yourself that grace when you're struggling with those triggers, those stress triggers, those trauma triggers, those grief triggers. Just take it one step at a time. So, Renee, where can we learn more about you if people are interested in learning more about you
Okay,
and your
Melissa, you're
work?
frozen again. So let me see if you're done talking. At more, MOHR, natural.com, and under free gifts. So if you do /free gifts, I have a book called The Hidden Parasites Within. And it is about parasites. And yes, everybody in the United States has parasites. They're all in our water, on our new clothes, in our soil, in our air, on our food. They come from all over. We have a global society now. So it's no longer just what's in this country, what's in Hawaii, what's in Mexico, what's in Canada. We have everything coming all over, and we're exposed to those. A lot of people also have fur babies, livestock, chickens, maybe raising some goats, and we can give those different herbs so that they can get rid of that too, so that it doesn't pass on to us. For a fun little tip I heard about in my business group this morning, because I know Halloween is coming And so we've all, as parents, have got and grandparents have got, okay, how can we get our kids to enjoy this holiday without getting the sugar, just basically a dump load of sugar. So I had some people in my business group saying that they were giving out dice or kids coloring books and crayons for Halloween. Also, if you can go to the dollar store and you take some little like those fidgets and finger games and stuff, wrap them in a saran wrap and then put them all together and make like little balls where they got to undo the saran wrap to get to the ball, and they can trade toys with little toys with each other, and they can still get dressed up and have fun. That's a lot of fun. Some people have like a chili potluck cook off where they go and have a chili contest and cornbread. That's fun for the kids. And it's all right to let them have, a few pieces of candy, but do we really want them eating the bucket loads that they
No.
can get?
No, what we do is we portion it out. We have her little bucket and then we put it on the top shelf and
Yes, I get it.
little bit, portion it out
Portion
throughout the
it
day.
out. And
Yeah.
another thing, I had a friend, business contact, said that so they allow their kids to have like 5 pieces on Halloween night. And then they take certain candies that their kids really like and they hide them. So they got to find them in the house, whether it's they got to clean up their room to find some candy or find some. And then they also pay them like anywhere between a penny to 5 cents. And you can do it per pound. And some dentists also pay per pound how much candy they get back, or they do like per piece of candy. So if they get rid of some of their candy, they're actually getting money that they can put towards something they really want.
Yeah.
And, that also helps too. So they're not just getting these ridiculous amounts of sugar throughout. And this is, sugar season is here. Okay. So we got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and all the Christmas season, but we can actually control it by, I know some of the snacks and treats that I make, you just take dates and put them into some warm water and put it in the blender, put a little bit of vanilla in there, and you have got a great date paste or caramel, and it's high in iron and it's low in sugar and it's got some more nutrients in it. Tastes really good, that you can mix with any type of cracker or a little bit of melted chocolate, and you've got something that tastes a lot better than the stuff that has all the high processed corn syrup and sugars in it that we really don't need them to have. And then
Right.
all the meltdowns afterwards.
Yeah, right, right. Well, Renee, thank you so much for being on the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. It was a joy to have you guys. As always, wherever you're watching this on Apple, Spotify, my blog, YouTube channel, all the information to contact and get with Renee will be below. And I definitely hope that you will tune in next week for another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. Thank you, Renee, and thank you to everyone who was listening. See you in the next one.